All right, DPS third graders, continuing on with temperature and learning how to use a thermometer, we are going to be doing a chart and a graph today about weather collection. Let's start getting into it. So on the screen, you're going to see some data that I have collected, and this data is going to help me as I make my chart. So the first thing that I'm going to show you is that I just clipped this from Thursday, March 25th. So as you can see, the first half, this shaded area, is going up by 15 minutes, but then as it connects down, it just goes up to the nearest hour. So when you do your data collection, you're going to be going to the nearest hour. So right now I'm just going to label on my chart over here the nearest hour and the temperature. So the first one I'm going to go with is 5 o'clock. So I'm just going to type that in. And at 5 o'clock p.m., I can see that it was 64 degrees. So I'm just going to write 64 degrees. And at 6 o'clock, it was 67. So once again, I'm just writing 67 degrees. At 7 o'clock, what was the temperature? Good. If you said 68 degrees, that's exactly right. And at 8 o'clock, it was 68. So I'm just going to write that down. Now, you're going to have a chart that looks exactly like this. So right now, I have an extra row that I don't need. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight that extra row. So once I have it highlighted, I'm going to right-click. And you can see it's going to say insert row above, insert row below, insert a column left, insert a column right. So we're not going to do anything with the columns, but for the row, I'm going to click on delete row. So once I click delete row, you can see that it has shortened it up. Now let's say I wanted to add. So let's say I had the temperature for 4 o'clock, and I do, even though that it's not up here. So I'm going to highlight this top row, right click, and am I going to be inserting the row above or the row below? Good job. I'm going to be inserting it below. So now I'm going to put that at 4 o'clock p.m. It was 63 degrees. Let's just go ahead and look. What do you notice is happening to the temperature? As the day goes on, so 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, as the day goes on, what do you notice about the temperature? What is going on? You're right. The temperature is increasing. And you can also see what the weather was looking like on this day. So we have scattered strong storms, and then they developed into thunderstorms. So now, after I have my data, I'm going to go to my next slide. So here, I have where my graph is going to be. Now, the purple is my degrees, where I'm going to label the degrees, and the gray row is where I'm going to label the time. And then we have our title. Right now, I want you to pause the video to think about what your labels are going to be for your chart. All right, so you have seen that I changed the title to Temperature Changes on Blank. So what am I going to add here? I'm going to add the date. How do I know the date? I can go back and I can see that I took my data on Thursday. So up here, I'm going to put temperature changes on Thursday, March 25th. So for the most part, yours is going to look like mine. You're going to put temperature changes on, and then here you're going to put the date that you take your temperature. So I'm going to highlight that red only because it's going to change for you. Degrees, because the degrees are going to be the unit of measurement for the temperature. So here I could put temperature in degrees. And what you're going to do is if it looks like this and you want it to look longer, you're just going to stretch the box out. And then after you stretch it out, you can just center it. So here we go, temperature in degrees. So then down here, you're going to put the time of day. So now we kind of got our chart set up. Now, boys and girls, I am not going to be filling up this whole chart. But when you fill out this whole chart, yours is going to look like this. Now notice, yours and mine. You are going to be starting it from 1 o'clock. So you will observe the temperature changes from 1 o'clock to 8 o'clock. And you will write down the hour and then the temperature. So once again, how do you get there? You're going to be clicking on this link and it's going to take you to a weather website and you can observe the temperature changes from 1 o'clock p.m. to 8 o'clock p.m. So now that I'm back at my chart, I'm going to go ahead and start putting my labels. So I'm labeling 4 o'clock. Then I'm going to click on the next one, 5 o'clock. I know it's going to look a little funny at first, but just trust the process, 6 o'clock. Then I'm going to put 7 o'clock. Then I'm going to put 8 o'clock, because that's where I end. Now, yours more than likely might look like this. All you have to do is you're just going to move these lines to have it adjust. And it can adjust properly. Now, if there are too many, we're going to do the exact same thing that we did before. You're going to highlight what you don't need. You're going to right click. And for this, since it's a column, you can delete the column. So I'm going to click delete columns. Now, that just made it a whole lot smaller. So now I'm going to make this bigger to fit. And look at that. And now I might have to move this one over here. Ooh. And boys and girls, you can just play around with it to get it to your liking. So here we go. I don't know why 5 o'clock is highlighted, but I'm just going to change that back to normal. All right. So now I can even erase these, and I think I'm going to, just because we don't really need them. And if we don't need them, so once again, deleting the column, if we don't need them, I see no point in having them there. All right, so here's what our graph is looking like. Here is where you're going to label your temperature in degrees. Now, let me go back to this. How do you think that I should label my graph? Would it be wise to go up by tens? Maybe I want to skip count by fives. What do you think? I want you to take a moment looking at this data to think about how I'm going to label my chart. So if you're thinking I need to go up by ones and start at 60, you're in the right track. So this is where I have right now. But as you can see, I have reached a problem. I have gone all the way up to 67, but my data says that I need to go all the way up to what? 68. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight this top row and I'm going to click on Insert Row Above. And voila. Just like that, you have an extra row. This is where we're going to label our graph. So 4 o'clock is going to go up to 63 degrees. So I'm going to highlight up to 63. Now for this section, I'm showing you the toolbar on Google Slides. So once I have it highlighted, I am going to go to this paint bucket. You click on the paint bucket and you can click whatever color you want. Now you're going to want a color other than the purple that you already have and the gray. So I'm going to click on this lime green. Woo, that's bright. Now, going back to my chart, 5 o'clock, it was 64 degrees. So now I'm going to go up to 64, Same tool process. Now they can be the same color. You can make it a rainbow. This is your chart. So as you can see, I'm going to start showing you all that data. 6 o'clock was 67 degrees. So I'm going to highlight to 67. Click on the paint bucket. All right, 7 o'clock was 68 and 8 o'clock was 68. So for this one, I can even color both of these. Now they're gonna be the same color, so keep that in mind. And I think I'm going to do this purple. Just because I want it to look a little bit different, I'm going to highlight a different color. But if you wanted to keep the same color, you could. All right, so here is what my graph ended up looking like, boys and girls. When you submit this assignment, you are just going to share it with your teacher, or you can screenshot it and send it on Canvas. And remember, this is a great way to show our information, our data that we already took on temperature, and then use it in a chart so that we can mark the temperature changes on the given day. All right, so once again, here was my weather and my chart that I made, and here was my graph. And remember, we are using this to take note of the temperature changes on our day. So what you're going to do is you're going to click on this link. So I already have it pulled up. So this is what it is going to look like. And you can see what the weather forecast is going to look like. You're going to click where it says next hours. So once you click on the next hours, you are going to be able to see the weather. So from here, you can start taking notes. So 4 o'clock, it is 50 degrees. At 5 o'clock, it is 50 degrees. At 6 o'clock, it is 50 degrees. At 7 o'clock, it is 48 degrees. At 8 o'clock, it is 45. Now, what you're going to do is you're going to make note of this information, and you are going to label and fill out your chart. After you fill out the chart, you are then going to create a graph. As you are filling out your chart and then you create your graph, and if you get stuck, you can always go back to My Model and see what you need to title it, what you need to label in the different axes. So now is your turn to click on that Weather Channel app, and you are going to observe the various hours of the day and create your graph. After you finish, make sure to answer these science journal prompts. So which part of the day was the warmest? And you're going to explain which part of the day was the coolest. So as usual, boys and girls, this was a great lesson to have with you. I look forward to seeing your work, and I will see you on the next one.